Classic mode has been a staple of the Smash Bros. Series ever since the original entry on the N64. While it definitely had some pretty low points over the course of the series, Smash Ultimate was able to make Classic mode the best it's ever been by giving every single character on the roster a unique campaign based on them or their series. Unless you're one of the Miis, of course. Whenever I'm not playing online but still want to play some Ultimate, I usually come back to this mode as the creativity of some of the routes is outstanding. In fact, I speedrun this mode a bit, which definitely does bring me pain sometimes, but overall I love what they did with this mode. However, some Classic mode routes are better than others, so today I've decided to rank all 83 of them from the worst to the best. Each route is made up of 6 standard matches, a bonus game, and a boss battle. These will all change based on the theming of the route, so this video will mostly be ranking these on 2 main factors. One is how creative and unique the idea for the route is. Some characters have surprisingly unique themes based on who they are, whereas a lot of other characters share very similar themes since they're all from space, for example. The second factor is how well executed their theme is. Sometimes a route will have a fight that doesn't really make much sense, or will be missing a fight that'd be perfect for it. This will mainly be seen in the bosses. Since there are a small number of bosses compared to the character roster, several characters fight the hands as there isn't really a better choice. Other characters, though, fight the hands despite there being a pretty good boss for them, so in those cases, they'll lose some points. Since the hands are the most common bosses, routes without them will also usually have a step up. I should also say that as a speedrunner of Classic mode, how fun these routes are to speedrun will not be a factor here. Otherwise, every route with Marks or a teammate would be in super F tier. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. At 100k, I plan to rank every moon in Mario Odyssey, and let's jump right into ranking every single Classic mode in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And last place, the absolute worst Classic mode, goes to Olimar. His route is titled Planetary Explorers, where he fights characters originating from space. Oh hey, would you look at that, it's the theme I said gets repeated in the intro. This is just about the most basic theme you could give to a fighter, as it really isn't based on the character themselves. 5 of the 83 characters share a route with this theming, which may not seem like a lot, but when most of their characters have unique themes, these just stand out as being incredibly unoriginal. These 5 will all generally fight the same characters as well: Rosalina, some Star Fox characters, some Kirby characters, some Metroid characters, and Olimar before ending with the hands. This is about as basic as a Classic mode can get. The other space themes are bad as well, but of them, Olimar is the least original, and I also don't like playing as him, so that's why he'll take last place at number 83. Fox's route is titled Spaceborne Smash and is also space themed. If we follow my space theme checklist from Olimar's route, we see that every single round here fits perfectly within it. The only reason this is higher is because Fox is more fun to play. Otherwise, this is basically the exact same route. And for that reason, Fox will take number 82. Oh, and as you just saw, I won't be spending a long time on most of these routes just so that we can keep this video moving. Ridley is space character number 3 with his route, It Can't Be, Space Pirates. Pulling up the checklist, yeah, it fits perfectly. I like doing the hands fight with Ridley more than the other 2 though, so he gets to take 81st place. How inspiring. Samus is space character number 4, and her route is titled Another Planet, Another Bounty, and whoa, what's this? Her route doesn't completely follow the checklist? While still being partially based on space, she has several unique battles not seen in the others. She still faces Wolf and the expected Ridley and Dark Samus, but she also fights new characters based on the Metroid series. For example, she fights a giant K-Roll to reference Kraid, and she even has a really cool and difficult battle against Mewtwo, Bowser, and Charizard. The boss is still against the hands though, and her theme is basically still space characters, so I can't really put her route much higher than 80th, but that's better than most of the other space routes. For longtime viewers of the channel, you all know that Rosalina is my arch nemesis. There is no other character I dislike more than her, and when I remembered her theme, titled One Star After Another, was another space one, I was ecstatic. I would finally have a list where she could justifiably take last place and people wouldn't be able to pin it on my hatred towards her. But then, her boss fight was sadly actually unique. Instead of the hands, she fights Marks, and since she is one of only 3 total characters to have Marks as a final boss, it meant that her route was sadly the most unique of the space theme routes. My chance to give her last place was stolen from me. Why couldn't the other space characters also fight Marks? I mean, it would have made sense. But now I'll have to live in despair knowing she was able to just barely escape my wrath and take 79th place. Let's move on before I cry about it more. We have finally been able to escape the space theme characters. only to run into our next most common classic route type, what I like to call duos. Essentially, this will have the character face off against 2 characters that are connected in some way. Only 4 characters have a route like this as opposed to the 5 of the space theme, making this slightly better. There's also more room to be creative with the duos fought, so that's why I gave this theme the edge. As for the worst duos theme, it's easily Pythra's route titled Shared Destinies. The battles are generally who you'd expect to see on a route like this: Zelda and Sheik, Samus and Dark Samus, Pit and Dark Pit, and so on. One good thing I can say about the duos theme is that the hands do actually make sense to be the bosses. Generally in classic mode, you'll only fight one of the hands, and then if you get to intensity 7 before the boss, you can actually fight both. However, in these duos routes, you will always fight both regardless, which is a nice touch. That's about as far as my credit giving will go though. As for why Pythra are last, well, it's simply because they're the last DLC to have a route like this, which meant we already had 3 others when they decided to throw in a 4th. For that reason, this will take 78th place. Banjo & Kazooie's route is titled Perfect Partners, and shocker, it's also about duos. Instead of all 6 main fights being 2 characters though, the first 3 are all against 1 character who's made up of 2 characters like Banjo-Kazooie, if that makes any sense. The other 3 fights are more standard duos, but with a slight Banjo-Kazooie twist. For example, the fight with Fox and Falco is on Luigi's Mansion to reference Mad Monster Mansion. Like Pyra though, Banjo was also DLC, meaning he brought over another duos route after the game already launched, making this slightly lamer than the 2 base game ones. For that reason, Banjo & Kazooie will take 77th. Chrom has our first base game duo route with his titled Fight as One. By the way, the most generic name of all time, but that's not too important. For those of you who are based and don't know much about Fire Emblem, the reason Chrom has this route is apparently because in Fire Emblem Awakening, they had some sort of pair-up system. For that reason, in each battle, Chrom is teamed up with either Lucina, male Robin, or female Robin. Or sometimes even Alolan Raichu. The only exception is in the first round where he fights Lucina, in reference to their duel in Chapter 4 of Awakening. That does mean you'll even get a teammate during the hands fight, which is neat but also makes this annoying to speedrun since you'll have to rely on them staying alive. Other than that, this is a pretty standard duos classic mode, so this will take 76th. Ice Climbers have the best duos route titled Duos for Days, as they're the character the theme makes the most sense for. I also kind of have fun during the hands fight since you and Nana can deal a ton of damage since you essentially attack twice. Oh yeah, and speaking of, I accidentally misclicked quit while getting footage and had to replay the whole classic mode again because I decided that I wanted to end each segment with the classic mode picture, so you all better appreciate that detail now. But anyways, yeah, this will take number 75. Now I think those first 9 spots are relatively uncontroversial. I'd find it hard to believe most people would think they should be any higher, but now it's time to get into the more controversial stuff. Now I know I said my speedrunning experience would not affect the ranking, but I'm sorry. I don't think in my right mind I could place Toon Link's classic mode titled Hell Teamwork of Courage outside of the bottom 10. This is infamous for being the worst classic mode to speedrun. First off, you have not 1, but 2 teammates every round. Now why is that a problem? Well see, these teammates share half a brain cell and go out of their way to ruin your run. They will constantly hit your opponents out of attacks that would have killed them, or heck even save them from certain death. That's not even the worst part though. See, these 2 teammates are also Toon Link, which means their down special is a bomb. So despite team attack being off, they're still able to damage you, and they love using their bombs, more than any other move in fact. And I swear my teammates just love to make sure my opponents never come in my direction so that I can do the fast strats. I used to hold the record for this category, but after my trauma, there's no way I'm going back to try and get it. But okay. I did say that speedrunnings wouldn't affect the ranking, so I do actually have a good reason for this being so low. While this is based on Triforce Heroes, this is essentially another duos route, except the groups vary from 2 to 4 characters. There's no special reason for fighting the characters that you do in this route other than them being a team, which is basically the same thing as the last 4 routes we talked about. This is better than those though, as there is more variety here and the boss is against Ganon instead of the hands, being our second route with a unique boss. So it does bring me a bit of joy to have at least a somewhat justifiable reason for putting this route that brought me so much pain near the bottom of the list at spot number 74. This brings us to our first real character that has a theme that isn't represented by any other one on the roster. That character is... His route is titled Between White and Black, and he fights against black and white characters. I don't know if this is based on something for Fire Emblem Fates, but to be honest, I really don't care, because this has to be the lamest theme out of any classic mode route. Hey, I guess that means it fits Korn pretty well. Great job, dev team. But yeah, he just goes against random black and white characters, even going against the opposite Korn gender twice, which is just so incredibly sad. Hey, at least the hands make sense, I guess. Anyway, there's not really much to say here, so this will take number 73. And we're right back to characters that share a theme. This time it's only two characters, Pikachu and Pokemon Trainer. Pikachu's route is titled I Choose You, and Pokemon Trainer's is titled The Future Champion. Both just fight against all of the Pokemon characters before ending with the boss fight against Mewtwo and Master Hand. I do like how the boss here is somewhat unique, which is what landed them both above Corrin, but other than that, these two routes are nearly indistinguishable from one another. I'm going to say Pokemon Trainer's route is worse though, as I think it had more lost potential. I made a video a while ago fixing some classic mode routes, and I thought my idea for Pokemon Trainer was really good. What if after every battle in the route, the Pokemon you fight will join your team for the next one, showing that you caught it just like in the Pokemon games? If they did that, this would certainly be much higher, but as it is now, it'll have to take number 72. Since Pikachu's route is basically the exact same thing but with less missed potential, it'll take number 71. From this point on, ranking classic routes became extremely difficult. There were several points while outlining this video where I moved to classic mode more than 30 spots on the list, so just keep in mind that even if your favorite is somewhat low, that doesn't mean it's bad. Anyways, Zero Suit Samus's route is called Grapplers, Whips, Claws, where she fights most of the characters that use tethers. Yeah, not including DLC since they were obviously added after her route was made, she's still missing quite a few characters. Not having default Samus is fair enough since she is Samus and Dark Samus is here, but what about the others she misses? She fights against Young Link and Toon Link, Ivysaur, Dark Samus, Yoshi, and Simon and Richter. All of those make sense to be here, but what about characters like Luigi or Lucas? They definitely also have tether grabs, and I'd say they're closer than who she fights in the 6th round. Instead of going against those two, she fights against a horde of Little Macs. They use their wireframe ult, which is meant to be a pun with the word wire, but I definitely would have preferred if she actually fought the characters with tethers. The hands also don't really fit as bosses, but to be fair, there's no one else that really would fit. So for being a decent theme with some pretty poor executions, ZSS will take number 70. Sonic's route is titled At the Speed of Sound, and unlike the characters up until this point, the theme here isn't exactly clear. It's a mix of the fastest characters in Ultimate and Sonic references. I have no idea why they decided to try and mix two themes together, but it just does not work. His fights against Fox, Captain Falcon, Sonic, and Sheik all feature characters within the top 10 fastest in the game, but his rounds against the yellow, red, and blue Kirby and the giant Incineroar feature characters on the slower side. I think this route would have been much better had it just been either the fastest characters or just Sonic references. Plus, I also think Gallium could have been the boss here instead of the hand due to how many robot Sonic fights in his home series. So for being a poorly executed theme, Sonic will take number 69. Falco's route is titled Soar Above the Darkness, where he fights characters associated with darkness, whether they're evil or literally dark. Now this darkness theme is another that gets repeated, in this case by 4 characters. However, I do think that each of the darkness characters are different enough from feeling too similar, so the other 3 are much higher on the list. So what makes Falco so low? Well, the main thing for me is, why is a route based on dark characters for Falco? Like, I asked everyone I could in my Discord and the speedrunning Discord, and I could not find out a reason why this is Falco's route. It's not like he specifically fights dark characters in his games, so there's really no reason for him to have this. It's so clear that they just ran out of ideas, so since this doesn't really fit him, I decided to put it quite low. The theme itself is well executed though, all of the characters make sense, and it's neat how you fight Crazy Hand instead of Master Hand on lower difficulties. But yeah, just for not making any sense for this character, this will take number 68. Next, we have another 2 classic routes that are very similar to one another. Lucina's titled A Path of Heroes, and Violet's titled A Heroic Legacy. Both of these just have the characters fight every single Fire Emblem character in Smash, which there are a lot of. The theme is fine, not awfully creative, but it sort of fits both of the characters. The real question is, which one is worse? Well, this was very hard for me to decide. I know earlier on I had the DLC duos routes be the lowest since they were DLC, however, I do think Violet's is better than Lucina's despite that fact. While Lucina's battles are all just standard fights, Violet's are all in stamina mode. On top of that, while both fight the hands, Violet has one character from every Fire Emblem game represented in Smash here to help him, which makes this one of the funniest fights against the hands. Had only Violet had an all Fire Emblem character route, it would have likely gone much higher, but as it stands, Lucina will take number 67 and Violet will take number 66. Pichu's is titled Lightweight Fracas, where he fights light characters on stages in the sky. This route makes sense for Pichu since he is the lightest character in the game, however the execution is a bit off to me. For the first round against Jigglypuff, he fights her in Pokemon Stadium, which isn't really a sky-based stage like Peach's Castle, Skyworld, Pilot Wings, and so on. Additionally, I think this would have been a perfect route for Marks to show up. Since he's the smallest boss, he'd make way more sense than the hands, so for a bit of missed potential, Pichu would take number 65. Roy's is titled A Journey of Swords, where he fights sword characters. This theme is kind of generic and isn't really perfectly made for Roy specifically, though it is well executed. The only change I would make is once again to the boss. The hands don't have any sword related attacks in Ultimate, so Ganon, a boss who actually uses swords, would make much more sense as the boss here. Now one last thing about this route is that it has the best ending picture. I mean, come on, there's just no contest. So for that, Roy will take number 64. Mr. Game & Watch's route is titled A Long Legacy, where he fights retro characters. This theme does make sense for him, however a character later on does a theme like this significantly better, making this one here pretty underwhelming. Some of the character choices also don't make sense, like why is Kirby here when much older characters like Ice Climbers and Little Mac don't show up at all. So for being an inferior version of a later route, this will take 63rd. Speaking of Little Mac, his route is titled Friendly Sparring, where he fights characters that primarily fight hand to hand. I think this theme is decent for him, however another character has a similar theme later on and it's done much better there. Still though, this is certainly decent, giving it 62. Snake's is titled Weapons and Equipment OSP, where he fights characters that mostly use projectiles and explosives. The idea is about on the same tier as Roy's, however it does fit Snake better. Characters like the Inkling, Samus, and Rob all make sense, but then there's characters like Pit, which are sort of a stretch, at least based on their Smash moveset. Snake did get Gallium as a boss though, which fits the theme perfectly, giving this route as a whole a huge boost, so Snake will take number 61. Mario is the first of my 4 main characters to show up in this video. I really don't think my bias towards him helped much though, I mean he's only at number 60. His route is titled Let's Go, where he just goes to random universes featured in Smash to fight the characters there. This is really basic, however as an introduction to classic mode it does make sense. While it may not be creative, it's a good starting off point, and as Mario is character number 1, it makes sense to give it to him. One little Easter egg I liked is during the Horde battle with the Koopalings, they appear in the order that you fight them in Mario 3 with Bowser Jr. coming last, which is a neat touch. Now the main reason Mario was able to be this high up despite having a very basic theme is the boss fight. He is one of only 2 characters to fight against Giga Bowser as his final boss, which by itself makes this route fairly unique. This right here is probably the most average classic mode, which means it's certainly not bad, but just nothing extraordinary. So for that, it'll take number 60. Sheik's is titled Masquerade, where she fights characters wearing masks. Since a big part of Ocarina of Time is finding out Sheik's identity, and concealing that identity is what the point of the mask is, this theme makes perfect sense for her. The only reason this isn't higher is because of the execution. Mennonite, Captain Falcon, Samus, Roy, and the Mii's all make sense. However, wireframe Little Mac in his hoodie is a bit of a stretch. I probably would have put Dark Samus instead, though maybe they didn't want to put 2 Metroid characters. In that case, this is a total missed opportunity to use Link based off the Fierce Deity mask. It would have just been a really neat reference to the Zelda franchise. The last thing I'd change is the boss. I mean, Gallium literally wears a mask sort of thing, so he definitely should have been the boss here instead of the hands. So for being a great theme brought down by its execution, Sheik will take number 59. Wario's is titled I'm Gonna Win. First off, that's a great name, but secondly, this has him go against some of the hard hitters in Smash. The only thing is, he's missing 2 pretty big names here. Neither Donkey Kong nor Bowser show up, and they're the most iconic heavyweights of them all. Speaking of Bowser, this would have been an absolutely perfect route for Giga Bowser to be the boss, but instead we get the hands once again. It almost feels like they were intending to use Giga Bowser, but then forgot with just how blatant Bowser's exclusion is. For missing quite a few opportunities, this will take number 58. Speaking of a good theme brought down by its execution, we have Lucas in his route Magic, Sacred Powers, and PSI. While the theme isn't quite as strong as Sheik's for example, the execution is a bit better with most of the characters fitting pretty well. Even the hands as the bosses do make some sort of sense. The only thing is, it's really weird that Zelda is not in this route. Like when I hear the title, I would honestly think of her as one of the first characters to add in here. I'd probably replace Bayonetta, I mean Zelda just fits too well. Other than that, this is a fairly decent route, giving it 57th. Now I really struggled with where to place Ness's route titled Home to Onett. This has fights based on moments from Ness's game Earthbound, which I've never played. Yeah, a lot of these references go completely over my head. Had I played the game, there's a good chance this might have been higher up. There are a few things though that I've noticed that don't really make much sense based on my limited knowledge on the franchise. For one, Lucas doesn't appear in Earthbound, he's from Mother 3, so his fight makes 0 sense. Secondly, there should definitely be a fight against Mewtwo somewhere along this route. I mean, compare the main villain of Earthbound, Gygus, to Mewtwo. They're basically clones. Finally, the whole theme here is that Ness is returning home to Onett, but the last fight is against the hands on normal FD. They should have made the stage the Omega version of Onett. I have no idea why they didn't. Honestly, I may be being a bit too generous here, but I did decide to give this number 56 just due to my lack of knowledge. Very similar story with Pit, as his route is called Fighting for the Goddess, where the fights are based on moments in Kid Icarus Uprising. That's once again a game I've never played, however it seems like the fights in this route make much more sense. The hands are once again the boss here, but getting Dark Pit as a teammate does make this a bit more unique. Again, maybe if I actually played the game I'd like this route more, but I'm going to be giving it number 55 for now. Ken's route is called Red Hot Rivalry, where he fights characters that are rivals to the main character in their franchise. This makes sense for Ken as he is Ryu's rival, however certain choices here are a bit weird. Like sure, Dark Pit, Wolf, Ryu, and maybe even Dark Link make sense, however the other two are a bit off to me. I'd say Ridley is probably much more of a rival to Samus than Dark Samus is, however the main one here is Luigi. This strongly implies that Luigi is Mario's rival, which isn't really the case, they work together most of the time. Oh no wait, actually I just watched a game theory and Mario stepped on his brother's shoe one time. Clearly this is a vicious rivalry and makes perfect sense. One last thing, this is the other classic mode route besides Falco to feature Crazy Hand instead of Master Hand on low difficulties, which is pretty neat. Ken will be taking number 54. Young Link was another one that was really difficult for me to place. He's also the second of my 4 mains to appear here, which may be why he ended up where he did. His route is titled Hyrule Smash, where he fights against every single Zelda character in Ultimate. That theme is incredibly basic, however it is executed perfectly. Since Zelda has a boss in the form of Ganon, not a single round is off here, unlike the other all-franchise character routes we've seen before. As anyone who knows me knows, Majora's Mask is my favorite Zelda game. This was a huge missed opportunity to create a route based on Majora's Mask. Maybe each fight could have been against a character that represents one of the major masks you can collect. Say Green Diddy Kong for the Deku mask, Donkey Kong for the Goron mask, Greninja for the Zora mask, Link and his Fierce Deity ult for I'm sure you can guess, and so on. So while this theme is well executed, the theme itself is so basic that I can't put it any higher than 53rd. Yoshi's classic mode is titled Jurassic Journey, where he fights reptilian characters like Ridley, K. Rool, Mark Zuckerberg, Bowser, and so on. This theme is really well executed in terms of character choices, even being the first character of this video to feature Rathalos as the boss. The main thing I don't like about this is the horde battle with the Koopalings taking place on Yoshi's Island. The geometry of the stage at the slope at the side and the turn blocks in the middle make this really annoying to do a horde battle on. Most of the times the opponents are just gonna hit the ceiling and live or get stuck on the slope. Plus this theme isn't terribly creative, but it's not like it's bad, which is why Yoshi's gonna take 52nd place. Duck Hunt is in a very similar boat. In his route, called Dog Duck Zapper, he'll fight animal characters. Like Yoshi, they'll even have Rathalos as the final boss. However, this theme is just about as generic as it gets. No other characters have a theme like this though, so it'll take number 51, though it's not really a specific theme made for Duck Hunt. Diddy Kong's route is titled Hey Little Buddy, where he goes to other universes within Smash to act as the sidekick for the hero. As an example, in his first fight, he'll be teamed up with Mario to defeat Bowser and Bowser Jr. I actually kinda like this theme. It's nothing horribly special, but I do think it fits Diddy Kong a decent amount, so it'll take 50th. Ike's route is titled Black-Clad Warriors, where he fights characters wearing black, as his main antagonist is the Black Knight. They get pretty creative with a lot of these rounds. I specifically like the first round using Dark Meta Knight and Kirby and his Dark Alt, and the second round featuring Morton alongside the Dark Alts of Sonic and Greninja. They even use a song from Sonic and the Black Knight, which is another funny reference to the Black Knight this route is based on. The only thing is, the hands really don't work as the boss here. I mean, they're the exact opposite color of what this is based on. To be fair, none of the bosses exactly wear all black, but either Dracula or Ganon would have worked a little bit better here. So while I do like this theme, the boss fight just brings it down too much for me to put it above number 49. Dr. Mario's route, titled Colorful Treatment Plan, is a very similar theme as Ike's, though instead of black characters, Dr. Mario fights trios of characters that are red, blue, and yellow. This of course references the 3 main viruses of the Dr. Mario series, so it fits in pretty well. Also, a weird fun fact, after one of the updates, the spawning position of the first round changed from being on the floor to on the building. Not sure why this was changed, but I'm happy I got the record before that. Anyway, since this one is similar to Ike's, it also shares the exact same problem, the hands as the boss. This one isn't as bad since white isn't the opposite color as red, yellow, or blue, but they still don't fit. This might have been a good one to use marks with, as he's composed of all 3 colors and he's by far the most colorful boss. So for having the same issues as Ike, this will take number 48. Richter's is titled Smash Echoes, where he shockingly fights every Echo character in Smash Ultimate. Yeah, this theme is super basic and not really personal to Richter, however it is executed well. With one exception. He's our first character to have Dracula as a boss, and while I am very happy his boss is unique, it really should have been Crazy Hand. Like, the hands are super oversaturated, but sadly, it just makes way too much sense here. Richter will be taking number 47. Zelda's route is titled Wisdom Prevails, and at first I got really confused as to what this theme meant. Based on the title, I originally thought she was going to go against stupid characters, which would have been a hilarious theme, but no, she just goes against antagonists on Zelda stages. It's done fairly well, no round here doesn't make sense, though I think it would have been nice if she faced each villain on their own home turf. Also, 3 of her fights are based on Zelda, whereas other franchises like Kirby and Star Fox don't have their antagonists here. I'd probably replace the Yiga clan and Dark Link. The main thing carrying this sort of mediocre theme is the boss fight against Ganon. First off, she's the only person who needs to fight Ganondorf before Ganon. I'm not sure why, but that does make this more unique. Zelda, though, is definitely the most fun character to fight Ganon with. Ganon's gimmick is that you can only hit him on the tail, so normally you have to jump over him to reach it. As Zelda, though, you can just teleport, so this boss goes by very quickly. This will take 46. Alright, now we have the 3 remaining dark character routes. We saw Falco earlier, however these 3 characters actually make sense to have this theme. Link's route, A Quest to Seal the Darkness, is my least favorite of the 3. I feel like they could have probably thought up of something slightly better for Link, but this certainly works. Having Ganon as a boss also helps, giving this 45th. Joker's is titled Shadows, in which he also fights dark characters, though this time they're literally dark rather than just evil like in Link's. Each battle takes place on mementos except for round 2, which is on Kalos, as it's meant to represent the Velvet Room. That also means that yes, the hands fight also takes place on mementos, which makes this one of my favorite fights against them. Joker will also recruit one of the shadows from the previous round to the next one, referencing how Joker can recruit shadows as personas. That makes this distinct enough from the other darkness rounds to not drag down the theme as a whole, giving this number 44. The best darkness theme has to go to Sora's route titled The Light That Clears the Darkness. While it is another darkness theme, this also makes sure to be distinct from the others, as 1, its fights are more closely tied to Kingdom Hearts rather than just being pure darkness, and 2, this is in stamina mode. This being in stamina mode is actually the whole reason this is above the others, as it gives us a chance to see Sora's really cool and unique stamina KO animation. I'm also really happy that one round takes place on the transformation of Hollow Bastion. Overall, the only thing really holding this back is the somewhat common theme, but other than that, this is pretty good, taking number 43. Min Min's route is titled Arms at the Ready, where she fights characters based on arms. I've never played, but I was able to understand most of these fights, so that's pretty nice to see. Galleon being a boss here is also a nice surprise as well, definitely a solid classic mode. The only thing really holding this back is the fact that I hate playing Min Min. Sorry Min Min fans, maniacs, but this is gonna take number 42. Captain Falcon's route is titled Up Close and Personal, where he fights characters that fight, well, up close and personal. This is very similar to Little Mac's route, however this gets a huge boost for being the only other route besides Mario to feature Giga Bowser as the final boss. Also, this has the exact opposite thing as Min Min, where I just enjoy playing Falcon way too much, making this one of my favorite ones to come back to. If it wasn't such a basic theme, this would be much higher, but it'll take number 41. Terry's route is titled The King of Smash, where he fights stamina battles against characters from different universes in sets of 3. The teams of 3 reference the King of Fighters series as it features 3-on-3 battles. While this is sort of similar to Mario in terms of just going to different universes, Terry does a lot to stand out. For one, obviously this is in stamina mode to reference his fighting game origins. Secondly, the teams aren't just based on franchises, as there's also a heavyweight team featuring Bowser, K. Rool, and King Dedede, and a dark team featuring Ganon, Ridley, and Bayo. Finally, this is our first round of the video to not feature a traditional boss. Instead, Terry goes against Ryu, Ken, and a second Terry for his last round. I really like that they decided to not give him a normal boss fight. It makes this pretty unique as only 5 characters don't use one of the main bosses. So while this theme is somewhat generic, Terry does a good job of making it distinct, giving this number 40. On the topic of fighting game DLC, we have Kazuya and his route fighting fist with fists. Like Falcon, this is also based on opponents who use hand-to-hand combat, however it's given a bit more of a Tekken spin. This is also in stamina mode, and some of the fighters are recolored to more closely associate themselves with characters from Tekken. Kazuya is also one of the 5 characters to not use a traditional boss. Instead he goes against himself and then a metal version of himself which references Tekken 7's final boss. If this had a more unique theme, I'd definitely place this higher, but as it is, it's still got a pretty solid 39th place. King Dedede's route is called Royal Rumble, where he faces the royalty of Smash Ultimate like King K. Rool, Princess Peach, and so on. I really like this theme and I think it fits in pretty well, however there's absolutely no reason why the hands are the boss here. Both Giga Bowser and Ganon would have worked perfectly as their King of the Koopas and King of Evil respectively. I mean sure you face both Bowser and Ganondorf during the route, but other routes have had you face both Ganondorf and Ganon, so why is this any different? This is an absolutely huge missed opportunity, which is why this is only going to rank 38th despite having the potential to be much higher. Daisy's route is titled Sarasaland Represent, where she fights the princesses of Smash. The main route is perfect, but again, the hands don't really make much sense. I'm gonna be putting her above King Dedede though, since there aren't really any princess bosses, so she gets a pass, giving hers 37th. Isabelle is called Best in Show, where she fights against all the female characters of Smash Ultimate. Like the last two, this is a great theme brought down a bit by having the hands be the boss. Like Daisy though, there isn't really a good replacement here, so Isabelle will take 36th since I found her matches to be a bit more creative overall than Daisy's, especially the big free-for-all round. That was pretty cool. Alright, back to classic mode not brought down by the hands being there, we have Rob's route titled Unreadable Expressions. Here he'll fight against characters where you can't really tell what they're feeling or thinking. Meta Knight, Dark Samus, Game & Watch, Wireframe Little Mac, and of course Rob himself all make sense to be here, though the Wii Fit trainers are a bit of a stretch, especially since Sakurai made a specific note that they are more expressive in Ultimate. Other than that, I really like how Gallium is the boss here, so for a creative idea and decent execution, this will take 35th. Meta Knight's route is titled Two Sides of the Same Coin, where he fights free-for-all battles against characters and their dark counterparts. There are the obvious fights like Link and Dark Link, Pit and Dark Pit, and so on, but there are also some pretty creative ones like Captain Falcon and Falcon and his Blood Falcon alt, and Lucas and another Lucas and his alt based on his brother Claus. I think this fits pretty well for Meta Knight considering his sort of middle ground role in the Kirby series. Even though the bosses are the hands once again, that won't stop me from giving this 34. Bayonetta's route is titled The Requiem of Fallen Wings, where she fights characters that have wings in reference to her battles against angels in her home series. She's actually our third character to not have a traditional boss. Instead, she fights against a giant Palutena who uses wings and moves like forward smash and down smash. This is also the first of 3 classic modes to have the bonus game earlier than it normally would be. In this case, the third to last round as opposed to the second to last. Every fight here works. The only real thing holding this back is the fact that 2 battles take place on Skyworld for some reason, and the Pit Horde battle being very annoying to do. The shape of the stage makes it very difficult to cover all of their options. So for being a mostly well-executed theme, this will take 33rd. Bowser Jr.'s, Ludwig's route is titled Mama Peach, Where Are You? This is another one based on fighting princesses like in Daisy's route. However, this has some of the characters teamed up with their love interest or dad in Lucina's case. I think this theme works perfectly for them, however, I think this one would have benefited a lot from being one of the few without a boss. The whole point of this classic mode is for Bowser Jr. to reunite with Peach, so why is he gonna fight against Mario and Peach in the second to last round and not the very last round? I'm not gonna be too harsh to routes that could have gone without a boss since that's more of a rare specialty, but honestly, I think this should have been one of those few. For that reason, this will take 32nd. Ganondorf's is called Encroaching Darkness, where he fights against the protagonist from some of the series represented in Smash. I think this theme fits him well, considering he's probably the most evil character on the roster. Well, K-Rool stole some bananas, which is pretty evil, so Ganondorf being the second most evil character on the roster makes fighting against good characters pretty fitting. This has the same problem as Bowser Jr.'s route though, as Ganondorf really shouldn't be fighting against the hands or any of the bosses. I think his last round should be against Link and Zelda, as that would make the most sense, so just replace their round with some other hero like, Hero. Besides that though, this is still pretty solid, giving it number 31. Greninja's route has the most generic name of all time, right next to Chrom, where it's titled Your Turn, Greninja. Despite that name being pretty boring, the concept here is actually really cool. Basically, Greninja will go up against a Pokemon of a certain type, and they will be paired with another character or characters that match that type. For example, he'll first go against Charizard and Bowser representing the Fire type, then he'll fight Pikachu, Pichu, and ZSS for Electric, then Lucario, Ryu, and Ken for fighting, and so on. In terms of theme, this is probably within the top 10 for me, but that just means the execution is a bit off here. For one, Ivysaur is the only character without a teammate, which kind of defeats the purpose of this route entirely. Honestly, I feel like his teammate was intended to be Plant, but he wasn't added in time for the game's release. However, they could have at least thrown Olimar in here. Plus, Ivysaur is also a poison type, so maybe someone like Dark Samus could have been present as well. Furthermore, the boss is once again just the hands. I think it would have been really cool if the final boss had to do with Dark type, since Incineroar is one of the 2 Pokemon not used in this route. I was thinking, maybe you could have a 1v1 against Incineroar and then Dracula would spawn, similar to Zelda's boss fight against Ganon. If that was done, this route would have easily landed in the top 10. Sadly, it obviously wasn't, but despite its somewhat poor execution, the theme of this classic mode really carries it far, giving it number 30. Lucario's route is titled Counter Encounters, where he fights every character with a counter. I think this theme is pretty solid, especially on Lucario, who is all about getting hit to win. Every fight makes sense here, except once again the boss, which is just the hands. To be fair though, I don't think Lucario really needs to be one of the few without a boss, and since there really isn't a suitable replacement, that won't bring him down too far. Lucario will take number 29. Palutena's route is titled A Little Divine Intervention, and her theme is, once again, really creative. She battles characters that have their original game strongly associated with some sort of religion. Every single round is perfect, except for the boss. This is against the hands once again, when it would have been perfect for an appearance from either Ganon or Dracula. I mean, there are matches where you fight Link and Zelda and Simon and Richter, so it would have made sense for either of their bosses to be present here. If they were, this easily would have moved up quite a few slots, but as it is now, it'll take number 28. Incineroar's route is called Burning Pro Wrestling Spirit, where he fights against heavy characters styled to be like a wrestling match. Almost every battle takes place on Boxing Ring or its Battlefield and FD equivalents. While not the most creative theme in the world, they do a great job of making it really fun. I especially like the 4th round where you're teamed with Greninja to go against Morton and Ludwig to represent the tag team match. In fact, the only thing I don't like about this is the boss, however not exactly in the same way as the past few. See, I actually think the hands fit pretty well here, especially since you're teamed with Greninja to represent another tag team. The problem I have with this is the stage. stage, as this 100% should have been on FD Boxing Ring like every single other match in this route. Aside from that though, this was really well executed, giving it the 27th spot. Cloud's route is titled A Ride, Not Interested, where he fights characters associated with vehicles on the stages with those vehicles. This was a totally unexpected theme for me, but I think it works with Cloud pretty well here. They get pretty creative on some of these rounds as well, like having you face Mario, Yoshi, and Peach on Rainbow Ride. Also, mostly unrelated here, but Falcon's stage is Big Blue, which makes sense, but it also made me realize that one of the other F-Zero stages, Mute City SNES, never appears in any classic mode route. This got me curious to see what the other stages to never appear were, and then I got distracted with some classic mode trivia on the Smash Ultimate Wiki. So to give us a little break from this list, let's give out some of this trivia because I may not have another chance to do so. Big Battlefield, Paper Mario, Super Mario Maker, Yoshi Story, Mute City SNES, WarioWare Inc., Hand & Bow, Pictochat 2, Balloon Fight, and Tomodachi Life are the only stages to never appear in classic mode. Link is the character seen the most often in classic mode, being found in 23 of the 83 routes, whereas Snake is the rarest non-DLC character, appearing in only 3. Norfair is the most common stage, appearing in 14 routes, however Boxing Ring is seen in the most fights, 21 in total, mostly due to Incineroar's route we just talked about. Oh wait, yeah, let's get back to our ranking. The only reason Cloud's isn't higher is, for the billionth time, the boss just doesn't quite fit. Since Gallium actually moves and is sort of like a vehicle, I think he could have worked here. Aside from that though, this is still pretty solid, giving it 26th. Dark Samus kicks off our top 25 with her route titled The Great Poison Given Form. In this route, she will travel to some of the universes in Smash, but also corrupt one of the characters from there to be her teammate. In fact, each of her teammates have been corrupted before in their home series, or in Ivysaur's case is just a poison type. The only thing bringing this down are the last two. First off, the penultimate round is just a free-for-all against Samus and Ridley, which just feels like a cop-out as it doesn't fit the theme at all. Secondly, while I'm fine with the hands being her boss, I think she should have had a teammate that she corrupted here too. Who, I'm not exactly sure, but there's definitely enough characters on the roster to think of somebody. So for its great idea but mediocre execution, this will take number 25. Peach's route is titled No Damsel in Distress, where she fights against characters that have kidnapped others in their home series. This is an absolutely perfect route idea for her, there really isn't any other better choice. That of course means I have a problem with the execution, and this is one of the most frustrating boss issues of them all. You're telling me, in a route where Peach fights against characters that kidnap people, she doesn't have her final boss be Giga Bowser? I mean, it's literally perfect, but no, they had to just use the hands instead. If she got Giga Bowser, this easily would have jumped up quite a few slots, but I can only give her number 24. Villager's route is titled Mistake to Underestimate, where he fights against characters that don't look like they can fight but can still do some serious damage. Like Peach, this route is fantastic for Villager. It's even sort of a meta reference to how Sakurai originally didn't think Villager could work in Smash before Smash 4. Like Peach again though, this is one of the most frustrating boss exclusions of all time. Villager fights against the hands here, despite Marx's cutscene literally starting out with him looking innocent before becoming a super intimidating boss. I mean, come on, that's the definition of Mistake to Underestimate. I think Villager may have even hit the top 10 if Marx was his boss, but sadly, I can't move him up above spot 23 because this is just so infuriating. Alright, let's calm down a bit with Refit Trainer's route Aerobic Smash. This is by far the funniest theme of them all to me, as she goes against characters that are unhealthy to say the least. I especially love the round against Giant K-Rool because you get Dr. Mario as a teammate to just show how far gone he really is. The only real problem here is with, drumroll, you'll never guess it, the hands. This time though, it's not as infuriating as none of the bosses fit the theme perfectly. So for having the funniest, what on earth is that ending picture? Anyways, for having the funniest theme, this will take number 22. From here on out, the themes get really good, and my critiques start to get a lot more nitpicky than they already are. Dark Pit's route is titled Created Warriors, where he fights against characters that were created in some way. Mewtwo, Dark Samus, Dark Link, Cloud, and the boss Gallium all make perfect sense, but the other two are a bit weaker. Round 5 has you face off against Captain Falcon and his Blood Falcon ult. While the character the costume is referencing does indeed work, there are other characters that seem like baffling omissions. Rob and especially Mega Man definitely should have been in this route somewhere. That makes his round 6 against Pit worse. Like Dark Samus, it feels like sort of a cop-out as it doesn't really fit the rest of his route. Other than that though, this is still pretty solid, landing it at number 9+10. King K. Rool's is titled Super Heavyweight Class, where he fights all of the Super Heavies in Ultimate. Unlike Wario, who has a very similar route, K. Rool isn't missing anyone. In fact, he even gets to have Gallium as a boss, who definitely fits the heavyweight theme. I actually have no problems with this route. The only thing bringing this down is Wario having such a similar one, making this only number 20. Marth's is titled A Kingdom of Dragons, where he faces off against all dragon-like characters. Like K. Rool, this is executed perfectly, even having a good boss with Rathalos. The only problem this has is that it is, sadly, kinda similar to Yoshi's route, bringing this down to number 19. Piranha Plant's route is titled New Bloom, where he fights against all non-DLC newcomers for Ultimate. With Piranha Plant being the final non-Fighters Pass character, this route makes perfect sense for him. It's great to see all the newcomers come together in one place. He even gets to fight against Rathalos, who is a new boss for Ultimate. The only thing that's a bit off for me is the order and character pairings. With Ultimate having 11 new base game characters and there only being 6 rounds to work with, obviously some characters had to double up. While they tried their best with the pairings, I would have preferred if all the characters in this route were laid out in order of announcement. This is all a huge nitpick by the way, and it doesn't really affect its ranking much, so Plant will still take number 18. Robin's route is titled Thunder and Flames, where each match he fights against 2 characters, one representing Thunder and the other Flames. I think this is a really creative concept for a classic mode route. Almost every single fight here is perfect. Even the hands make sense as they do have fire and electric attacks. The only thing I don't like is the penultimate round, which is just a fight against the opposite gender Robin. This once again feels sort of like a cop-out, though unlike the other cop-out rounds we've had, it still fits the theme. Still, they could have used characters like Ness and Lucas here who both use Thunder and Flame attacks, but it's not really a big deal, so this would take 17. Simon's route is called Smashvania, where his fights all represent characters from his home series. Now some of you may be confused, why is Simon so high when others that have had fights based on their home series like Ness and Pit are so low? Well, unlike those, all of these fights make sense, including the boss. Having a boss in your own franchise really helps you out in this case, as Dracula is obviously a perfect fit here. In fact, I don't really have any problems here. My lack of knowledge on the series is what's really holding me back from fully appreciating this. It's also just not quite as creative as the top 15, but this is still quite the excellent placing of number 16. And now for that top 15. These were all incredibly close together as most of these are done to near perfection. First up we have Jigglypuff and her route, all original, all 64. This route is entirely based on the original classic mode from the original Smash 64. She's even one of the 5 characters to not have a traditional boss, instead fighting against the giant Donkey Kong seen in the original classic mode. The only thing holding this back is that it isn't quite an exact recreation. The original classic mode was much longer than our current classic mode, having 10 rounds, 3 bonus minigames, and a boss fight as opposed to our current 6 rounds, 1 bonus minigame, and 1 boss. For that reason, a lot of these matches had to be combined. Additionally, this route features all 12 N64 characters as opposed to only 9 like in the original, meaning a unique match had to be created for them. They definitely tried their best, and this is a really cool theme, but I think I can only really place it at number 15. Donkey Kong's route is titled Journey to New Donk City and is one of the most unique classic routes in the game. More than any of the others, this follows a sort of storyline, following DK's adventures from Congo Falls, to him taking a flight, to him having to fight through several cities before ending up in his destination of New Donk City. I just think that this is a really fun route to go on, but the best part is that the hands fight is actually on the location the classic mode is about, being FD New Donk City Hall. I really don't know why DK was the only base game character to change location for the hands fight because it works perfectly here. The only reason this isn't higher is because the other themes above it are slightly more creative, however it's not really by much, giving this 14. Luigi's route is called Luigi's Nightmares, where you fight spooky characters. Come on guys, this is the second time I've made that exact jump scare. Anyways, this route is laid out perfectly with Luigi fighting characters like Dark Link, Bayo, Ridley, and so on. The best part though is definitely the boss, as Luigi gets to fight Dracula, which makes so much sense to be here that I never thought they'd do it. Not after what happened with Peach and Villager. The only thing holding this back is that they use 2 different Dark Links. Personally, I would have made each round entirely different from one another. Still though, this is fantastic, giving it 13. Mewtwo's route is titled Psychic Control, where he fights characters that get mind controlled in some way in their home series. After each round, a character from the previous will join your side, implying that they are now under your psychic control. This is just such a sick idea for a classic mode route. It may be my bias for Mewtwo since he is my favorite legendary Pokemon, but I don't care, this route is just so cool. Even Master Hand being the boss makes sense, as he was actually controlled at one point by Taboo in Brawl Subspace Emissary. Even though everything in this route makes sense, it's just barely not unique enough to go higher. It's a great theme of course, but the next few are just a little bit better, but number 12 is still a really respectable position. Inkling's route is titled An Incredible Journey, where they fight characters representing certain colors. For example, they'll fight Green Lucario and the Green Ninja to reference, well, the color green. A color-based route for the Inklings makes sense, since color wars are what their home series is about. They get really creative with some of these color combos. I especially love the 5th match against Shulk, Ness, and Mewtwo on Fountain of Dreams, as they all represent a really unique combination of dark and purple colors that make this one of my favorite matches in any classic mode route. Another surprising thing is they actually gave the Inklings a good boss in the form of Marks. We haven't seen this guy since number 79, that's how rare he is. He's the most colorful boss by a long shot, so him appearing here is perfect. The only thing keeping this from the top 10 is the penultimate round, where it's once again another cop-out featuring 2 random Inklings on Moray Towers. This definitely should have been another color they hadn't done yet. Only green, pink, red, blue, and purple were used, so a yellow round could have easily fit. Other than that though, this classic route is great, giving it number 11. And we finally reached our top 10. These are the best of the best, and we're starting off with another one of my mains, Kirby, with his route titled Gourmet Clash. In this route, not only do you fight characters known for eating a lot, but each match starts you both out at 30% with food spawning around you. They didn't need to add that last part in, but them doing that really helps make this feel a lot more unique. Not only is every character choice perfect, but the boss is also marks once again, giving Kirby that extra edge of uniqueness. So for all those reasons, this will have to take number 10. Ryu's route is titled Seeking a Challenge, with each fight being based on a character from Street Fighter. Not only that, but to make each fight even more unique, every battle is in stamina mode and on a Final Destination variant of the stage. Despite me barely playing Street Fighter, I understood every single reference here. They did a great job on every single fight in this route. This is also another one of the 3 routes that have the bonus minigame earlier in the route, in this case being the 4th to last round instead of the 2nd. Even the hands make sense here, being stand-ins for M. Bison, which is made clear by the change in music to be his theme instead of the hand's normal one. This is once again another near-perfect route, giving this an easy number 9 spot. Shulk's route is titled Witness the Monado's Power, with each battle representing one of his Monado arts. This theme was revealed before the game released, and it single-handedly sold me on Ultimate's classic mode being the best in the series. To this day, this is still one of my favorite themes they've done, and each is represented perfectly. Falco is the highest jumper, so he represents jump. Sonic is the fastest character, so he represents speed. K. Rool isn't quite the heaviest, but since he's giant, he definitely is now, so he represents shield. Cloud wields the Buster Sword, so he represents Buster. Little Mac mains only know how to use Smash Attack, so he represents the Smash art. For round 6, they use Mega Man to represent the Monado Enchant, which isn't in Smash, but is of course in Xenoblade. The only thing that's somewhat sad about this route is the boss. It's against the hands again, which don't really fit here. I would have made Shulk go against Gallium to represent Metal Face, but regardless, I just love this theme so much that I couldn't bring myself to place it any lower than 8th place. It's the highest place in classic mode with the hands as the only boss. It's just so good. But now, the top 7. Why am I pointing out such a weirdly specific number? Well, it's because this set of 7 classic modes are perfect. I have literally 0 issues with any of them. They're all really creative and execute their respective themes perfectly. These 7 are so close that I'm almost inclined to call it a tie. They're that good. So kicking off this top 7 is one that you may not expect. Before scripting this video, I made a community post asking what everyone's favorite classic mode routes were, and this character was the only one in this top 7 to get only 1 comment advocating for it. That character is Pac-Man. I don't know why I built up to that so much. I mean, I spoiled it in the transition. Anyways, this is titled Ageless Classics, where he fights against the retro characters in Ultimate. If you remember all the way back to spot number 63, I said Mr. Game & Watch was the inferior version of a route we'd see later, and this is it. I know that I've taken points off for classic mode routes that have had similar routes done by other characters, but Pac-Man's is done so well that I couldn't bring myself to lower him. Every character I'd expect to be here is, and they're placed in release order, which is absolutely perfect. I even love how they used young Link here to represent the NES Link, as he's much closer than adult Link is. But the big reason that Pac-Man made it here is because of the boss. Never in a million years would I have expected them to use Dracula as the boss for him, but it's absolutely perfect. With Dracula being a retro boss from Castlevania on the NES, it makes so much sense to be here. I just thought they'd never do it. It's the creative boss fights like this that I really wish we got to see more of, but I'll take it at least for Pac-Man. All of this gives him the number 7 spot. Hero's route is called A History of Heroism, where he fights battles based on the Dragon Quest series. The reason this is higher than, say, Simon's route is because this one is made more unique. Every battle uses stamina to represent the health bars in RPGs. The most unique thing, though, has to do with the boss. See, Hero here will fight Rathalos, however not at the end of this route, instead it'll be in round 4. He's one of only 3 characters, the rest are in this top 7, to change the placement of this boss fight. This makes his one of the most unique of the entire cast, so his final boss is actually against a Robin who's replaced by a giant purple Charizard upon defeat. For the uniqueness of this route and excellent references to Dragon Quest, this will take number 6. Bowser is very similar to Hero in his route, the red one. Every red one. Here Bowser will fight against characters that are red to represent his monstrous rage against Mario. Just that theme alone is amazing, but they go even further with it. Bowser also fights Rathalos at a different time from the end of his route, being round 6 instead. This makes perfect sense, as Bowser's true final boss is of course Mario himself. This is what I was talking about in routes like Bowser Jr. It'd make no sense if Mario was before the boss, because then Bowser would have no more reason to keep fighting. Speaking of that Mario boss, I really enjoyed that it takes place on FD New Donk City Hall, and I also really like the fact that Mario gets replaced by Metal Mario upon respawn. This is easily the best route to come out of the Mario series, giving this 5th place. And for our final character to have their boss placed during a different part of their route, we have Mega Man and his route titled Variable Weapon Systems Online. In this route, he fights against characters that are meant to represent those in Mega Man. As I said, his boss, in this case Gallium since he's a robot and represents Guts Tang, is fought during the 6th round. Not only that, but Mega Man's route is also the 3rd one to change their placement of their bonus minigame, in this case being moved 2 rounds back, making this easily the most unique classic mode route structurally. His final boss is against Dr. Mario, obviously representing Dr. Wily, but once he's defeated a Mewtwo will appear, referencing Dr. Wily's alien hologram from Mega Man 2. Like the last two classic mode routes, Mewtwo isn't shown on the display screen before the fight, making him a complete surprise. Every round fits who they're trying to represent perfectly, and the way this is structured makes it truly feel like a Mega Man adventure. Or at least I assume. I've never really played this series, so I wouldn't know. Had I played this series, there's a good shot it would have even made it to number 2, but for now, I'm going to place it at number 4. Like I said though, this top 7 is really close. For our final, relatively standard classic mode route, we have Wolf's, which is titled Reunited Roster. As the name implies, this has Wolf go against all 6 characters that were not playable in Smash 4, excluding himself of course. So he fights against Ice Climbers, Young Link, Pichu, Squirtle, Ivysaur, and Snake. This is just about the perfect route I think Wolf could have gotten. Wolf was the final character of these 7 to be revealed for Smash Ultimate during the legendary Everyone Is Here trailer, which makes this theme most fitting on him. I also like that this goes in character order, with the exception of Snake, but I like that as Snake being last also makes sense as he was used as the big reveal that Everyone Is Here. Plus ending on Ivysaur would feel a bit empty. The boss of this route is also perfect as it's Gallium, a boss from Brawl's Subspace Emissary that made its return for Ultimate. This classic mode route is just a perfect representation of what Ultimate was all about, so for that reason, it takes number 3. Now, I'm fully ready to admit that number 2 is biased, but I don't care because my final main Steve's classic mode route, Journey to the Far Lands, is incredible. First off, the name, by far the best of any classic mode route. I always expected Steve would come to Ultimate. Maybe it was just wishful thinking, but I was able to get my wish. But even then, I never could have expected that they'd reference the Far Lands, a very famous glitch in Minecraft. When I first read that title, I got so excited because I knew they were going to make this classic mode as close to Minecraft as they could, and they absolutely did. Unlike all the other classic routes that are about referencing fights from their home series, I've actually played Minecraft, and a lot of it. It's my most played game of all time, so these matches were a blast. They even go in the natural order I'd expect them to for a standard Minecraft gameplay. First is against a zombie horde, which makes complete sense as not only are they some of the most common enemies, but they're also able to spawn more of them upon getting hit, making the horde aspect actually make complete sense here. Some are even small to represent baby zombies. Then we have Steve experience a raid with the pillagers being represented by Warriors. You even get a villager and an iron golem represented by a giant Rob on your team. Then there's a battle against 3 links to represent skeletons. Just like skeletons in Minecraft, they'll only use bows in this fight. Then there's probably my favorite round representing the Woodland Mansions, where you fight 3 small blue pits and a Robin on Luigi's mansion, representing the Vexes and Evoker. From there, Steve travels to the Nether where he fights 2 giant Kirbys representing Gas, and 2 small pink K-Rolls representing Piglets. That then allows Steve to access the end of fight 4 Endermen. They're even made to be 3 blocks tall in this fight like they are in Minecraft. Steve is also our 5th and final character to not have a traditional boss as he fights against 2 small Endermen and a giant Ridley to represent the Ender Dragon. I love how perfectly executed each and every fight is. I haven't even mentioned that every fight is in stamina mode to represent Minecraft's health system. This may not exactly be the case, but I feel like this is the one where they went the furthest out of their way to customize each and every fight to be as close as possible to what they're referencing. Sure, some other routes have size and AI changes, but I don't think any of them have quite as many changes as this one did. Like I said though, this placement could be biased since Minecraft is one of my favorite games, but I wouldn't rank it this high if I didn't think it did a phenomenal job referencing the game. At the very least, it's in this top 7, but for me, it takes the number 2 spot. Wait, all of that sentimental value just for the number 2 spot? Yeah, Sephiroth is the uncontested best classic mode route. I don't even want to hear any arguments in the comments, you all know it's true. His route is titled The Chosen Ones, where he fights every single boss in classic mode. This is just so cool. I mean, it fits Sephiroth perfectly with him being an all-powerful villain, and his moveset makes each and every boss really fun to fight. His long sword and strong attacks make you seriously feel like you're on level with all these other bosses. You don't even have to jump to hit marks of Dracula's head anymore. His up smash and up tilt cover the whole screen vertically. Not a single one of these are unfun to fight. Oh, and since I won't have a chance to showcase this on another main channel video, I need to show you all this glitch that happened to me while running this route a while back. God. I don't know if I can make this work. Oh, what? I didn't even know I could do that. No! Wait! What? I can't hit him! He's in the background! What? No! What the? No! No, come on! He's in the background! I can't do anything! No! I was at such good pace! Dude! I want to die. But anyways, for being the most unique classic mode and probably the most fun, Sephiroth will take the easy number 1 spot. But anyways, that's it for this incredibly long video. Are you all big Duck Hunt fans, and hey, how low I placed him? Let me know in the comments. I had a lot of fun making this video. Being able to replay a ton of routes that I hadn't in a while was really entertaining. I'm also pretty happy with how this list came out in general. I definitely moved some of them quite a bit. There was even a point where Kazuya's was in the top 10 or something, but I'm pretty happy with where everything is now. If you enjoyed this video, a like would be greatly appreciated so I know to make more videos like this in the future. But anyways, dry bones for Smash, and I'll see you guys next time.